Welcome again as we enter into session number 5, the 5th week. It's kind of crazy. We're officially kind of wrapping this up, but it's great to have all of you with us as we are sitting down and really just talking through building healthy community. That's the vision we have for the church. That's what we've been going after and diving deep in. And before I introduce who's with us again today, I do just want to say thank you. We are so grateful for people like you who have said, listen, we don't just want to talk about community, we want to go deeper and dive into this, and we just believe that the fruit is going to have impact for years to come. And as we enter into our 5th session, our 5th week, I do want to say that, and we've shared this in a few of the sessions, our goal is not 5 weeks, our goal is not 5 sessions. Our goal is that the things that we've started to talk about here, the things that we've addressed here, is that it would become a lifestyle. Yeah. That community is not just when you gather in a home, it's life on life. It's what you walk out. And so that's really our heart and our prayer. Today, we're going to talk about this, that community looks outward. So if you're going to build healthy community, one of the things you got to know about community is community looks outward. Before we jump into that, though, joined by some hosts and one of our good friends. So go ahead, introduce yourself.
I'm Kate, local church pastor.
I'm Zach Curry, one of the pastors at JC as well.
I'm Banning Leapshire, the lead pastor of Jesus Culture.
And Dean, one of the pastors at the church as well.
All right, here we go, guys. Community looks outward. This is a big one because one of the things when we decided to say not just community, but healthy community and really put that distinction on it. And one of the signs of health is the concept of with families, that kids are born, they become mothers and fathers, they have kids. Kids are born, they have mothers and fathers. That community, one of the things that happens in community is it gets very inward focused. It gets everybody just begins to, and again, for a lot of reasons, we just begin to look here, and it no longer begins to look out. It no longer is bringing people in. It no longer is multiplying itself. It's no longer is giving birth to babies. When I was a kid, there was a pond. We called it Turtle Pond. It was by Olney Creek that we used to play in when I was in elementary and junior high. And we would go to this place, and off to the side was just like this kind of big hole in the ground. And it had to have been only, it had to have been 20 yards across. But it was we called it Turtle Pond because there's turtles in there, but it wasn't that deep, just a few feet deep, but it was really dark, really gross, and like thick mud. And it was the thing that we challenged everybody. We're like, go walk across Turtle Pond. No way I'm not walking across Turtle Pond. And I gotta say, I did. I remember, you kind of walk, it's just the creepiest thing as a kid, walking across this thing. But the reason why it was so, dark and gross is because water would come in from the rain but never go out. There wasn't any flow of it, Yeah. And I think that's part of why we're wanting to end with this session is we realize for community to stay healthy, it has to go out. Yeah. It can't remain in. And so we don't want to be Turtle Pond. We don't want to be where, all the rain comes in and then it just sits there and it never actually goes out. So talk to me about that piece that if we're going to build healthy community, then community has to look outward. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Why is that important? Why is that a necessary piece of community?
I think that's a great analogy. That sounds nasty, that muddy water. But if you think about it,
it's where men were made.
Yeah. If you think about community, there's so many definitions. Like, we can say the word community and it can mean 20 different things. And I think the big reason is exactly what you're talking about. If we define community only based on what we want and need, it's not complete. And so that's why the outward flow is community is something that's created. It's, the Bible says, give and it will be given unto you. And so that barrier is if you're only it's important to recognize I need community for strength and there's needs and desires that we find in community, but it's to give, and actually that's when you get. When it goes out, you actually find that you receive what you need and the strength, but it starts with looking to create it, serve, and meet that need for other people.
And it's hard to tell the season sometimes with this because there is something beautiful about again, we're using the word community and we're talking a little bit about our community that might show up in a small group, our community of friends. But it's like, this is my community, this is who I do life with, and it's good. we know each other, it's safe, we love each other, it's encouraging. But eventually, again, in family, and again, I'm not talking practically that now everybody goes and split, but it needs to be multiplying itself. It really does at some level. Like at family, it would be a little bit weird if my sister and I still lived in the same house, and you know, and we just were gonna, like eventually it's like, no, I want to be able to take what has been given to me and I want to go pour it into somebody else. And what you're saying, it's not just about my needs, because my needs are all being met. But no, I've got to take that and go pour into others' needs, and I've got to go see this beautiful thing happen in the lives of others, and that's why it's got to be outward focused. And quite frankly, if we even begin to talk about the harvest, just a bunch of pockets of community in our church that aren't looking outward, like there's not really any room, you know? Like, I'm like, well, where does the harvest come in? The harvest has to come in and then kind of us find their own community. And that's not our heart at all.
And of any group of people that should be able to have the most profound impact on culture and society, it should be believers. It should be the church, because we have a real experience with a source of love that is beyond what's possible in normal, natural relationships apart from God. And we're practicing that with each other. We've talked about creating a safe place. We've talked about healing and restoration. We've talked about bringing the best of others into our lives. And so that should equip us to actually be able to say, okay, we're healthy. We've kind of figured out our dynamics now. Our powers combined. Like, what do we want to do? We look outward and we're able to say, okay, with all of our collective strength, what are we able to accomplish out there beyond what any individual one of us
And this is why we haven't used this phrase yet, but the concept of missional community. So a lot of times, like, why are you in community? You know, it's just like, well, we're just here. And there's an aspect of just to be known and to know. And but the reality is no, community is to be a launching pad too. It's to be a sending place. It's to be a dreaming place. It's to help you become who God's called you to be, but to help you do what God's called you to do. So there has to be, when you lose the missional aspect of community, I think you're in trouble.
Totally.
Because it does just beyond this. But like, no, our community is moving somewhere together. That has to be in place.
I was a part of a leadership community in the city that I live in, and we had great leadership teaching. It was a 3-month period that this community existed. And it was great. Relationships were formed. It was awesome. And then the last month, you were given a problem in the community to solve. And that's really when we came together. I mean, we thought we had community until they said, go solve a problem together. And then we just said, hey, what strengths do you bring? That's awesome. What can you bring to this? And together,
I get to know you even more.
Well, that's why, I mean, Banning says this all the time. In our community, we say we're not a business, we're a family. And I believe, you know, an extension of that is community, and it's one of God's transformational units and tools is community. It's why the Bible says in Psalms He puts the lonely in families. It's why I think Jesus said, "Do unto others as you have them do unto you," because there's this piece that we do have to be aware of what's going on here, what we need, but we actually find in the kingdom, like you're talking about, this missional, we find strength, and He uses that thing to transform others. And I'll tell you, that is the greatest fulfillment piece. That's what we're wired to do. And if we only think about, oh, I need friends, I need this, which is all good, it's like you're settling for way less than what and we find like, whoa, I can give life to other people by seeing their needs. We get even more life because that's the kingdom design for family and community.
And I love it. And listen, the reason why we ended with this and not started with this, the reason why we started the 5 weeks with community starts with belonging is because I think sometimes, you know, guys like me maybe are rolling in, we're like, what are we doing, man? Let's go, let's like, and people are like, we don't even know each other. Like, I don't even like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, you know, so creating that place to belong is important. I think sometimes people are a little bit nervous around like, if we're just doing everything, we don't really know each other, but it just can't, it's got to get there. It has to get there. And then what you're describing, which I really actually agree with, sometimes I get to know you even more as we go. As I'm pursuing the call of God on my life and you're pursuing the call of God on your life, we actually get to know each other even more in that process.
I didn't know you had that gifting. I didn't know you had that strength. So.
No, exactly. Talking about barriers a little bit, again, we've tried to get at least practical or talk about what are these things, because again, I think, you know, we all applaud this stuff, but there are things that really are hindrances. What are some of the barriers to building healthy community that looks outward.
I think we can just get comfortable. Honestly, like we can just be, I know what to expect. This is great. It's fun, comfortable. But when we look outward, that takes some sacrifice at times. That takes a different kind of energy. And yeah, it is the most fulfilling experience that we get to have. But that initial, yeah, we're kind of good. We don't need more people in this crew that we have.
We have the best story. When we came down here to plant church, we brought like 60 adults, 40 kids. But we didn't do church for 15, we didn't plant for 15 months. Yeah. So what we did was we called it Team Church, and we just had a place, and not everybody showed up because they weren't all in town, they're traveling, but we'd have about 40 adults on a Sunday night that would gather, and then some kids and this thing. And it was very home groupy. We was like, we'd do a little acoustic worship. I may or may not share. We might break up and pray for one another. It was just a chance for us to stay connected and still do church. Mm-hmm. But I remember everybody was loving it because we're coming from like really big church and a lot of meetings and all this type of stuff. And then they're just there and they're in this setting and it was just so, they loved it because they're coming in and they know everybody who's here. So I don't have to get to know anybody else. I know who's going to be here. It's just this really amazing, safe place. And I would bring somebody new in. And it was like,
what's going on?
Who's this
who
person?
is that person? What are they doing here? Why? It's like danger. And I just have to go like, hey guys, you all realize that we're going to start a church, right? You all realize that like this is not going to be happening all the time. But it was intriguing for me because it both showed me how necessary it is to have that place where you just feel safe and you feel known and you feel connected and then also how that can very easily become the problem. It's but walking that balance out, like, yes, we want that for you. Like, I'm excited that you're like, okay, this is amazing. I'm known and I love each other and we're all good. And then the minute somebody new comes in,
stay this way forever.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, you all realize we're down here to start a church, right? Yeah. So I agree with you. It's just a comfort thing, and it's not even that it's bad. You just have to recognize and go, okay, hold on a second, guys. Yeah. We have there's a purpose to what we're doing, and it's just not that I feel great all the time and am comfortable and never have to extend myself to meet somebody new or pour into them or invite them in or take them to coffee and. Yeah. So, Zach, what would be a barrier that you see in this?
I think when we get in a place where we see community as someone else's responsibility to create, if we're sitting back and we recognize, oh, like this isn't happening or I need this. But if a huge barrier is we put ourselves in the victim place or we put ourselves in the position that community isn't happening and it's someone else should fix this. It's just really dangerous, I think, because then you're stuck in this place where, we're called to create community. Community isn't something someone does for us. We may join in on something, but ultimately, I think as believers, we're called to create it. And so if we're sitting back, like, you didn't do this for me, I need this, do it.
Create it for others too at some level in regards to this, in that I have a personal responsibility not just for me, but for others as well, and we have to own that. So that's that concept, and I think at some level, like we just got to be honest. And this isn't. I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, but there are different levels of maturity. Yeah. So there are going to be immature people in our environment. I'm not knocking that. Younger in the faith or coming along, whatever it is, immature people who don't really aren't taking personally or don't really know or whatever else, and that requires then the mature people to go, no, I am going to go grab people and bring them into community. I am going to go find those that maybe don't think they need it. I am going to go challenge those that don't think it's their responsibility. And that we've got to get a critical mass of mature individuals who understand what you're saying. Totally. Like it's my personal responsibility to take care of my community as well as be looking around going, who here isn't plugged in and connected? And I'm going to go find you because... And maybe it is because eventually you should mature where you can get it on your own, but I'll go find you until then.
Well, because that mindset, no matter how mature you are, if you just know like, hey, this doesn't happen to me. It's as simple as, at church we say, hey, go meet someone new. Yes. If you're in that mindset, like someone needs to do this for me, you'll stand there and
until
never
somebody comes and
say
shakes
hi
your
to
hand.
someone. And it's so simple. No matter your maturity level, you just come like, hey, what's your name? I want to meet you. Maybe you're not going to start a small group or something at your house yet. You may not be there, but we create it. It's a partnership, and we have to engage that, not sit back and have someone else do it for us.
Love it. Dean, what would be a barrier?
I think not seizing the opportunity, not seeing problems outside of our community as an opportunity to work together. I love what you're saying about, creating community, because as we just mentioned, some of the best community is created in solving those issues and solving those problems. But just, growing comfortable, not taking those risks, not taking time to dream, allowing, I think another barrier is just like allowing for this conversation about impacting and making a difference to stop after the 5 weeks.
Yes, that's the danger. Yeah.
Hey, that was great, but there's that next step of hey, we're going to engage, which is a big principle for us. We're going to engage culture.
Yes.
We're going to engage our city.
Yes.
We're going to engage this together and make an impact.
Yeah, I love it. Really well, listen, our heart is for you to begin just to have conversations about practical too. So, we don't just want to talk about the vision of building healthy community or why community has to look outward, but also what are the practical things? These are the conversations that you can have even as as we leave this video in the group or one-on-one or sitting down. What are the practical things that I can do? What are tools? What's a pathway for me to walk out in regards to how do I make sure that the community that I'm creating, the community that I'm building is actually outward focused, not just inward focused in order to remain healthy. Yeah. Guys, I feel at some level like we should have a cake. Like we should have like little, something to celebrate as we kind of wrap this up and come to a close. And again, our heart is just to ignite and spark conversations, thoughts, times that you can go get with the Lord as well as just interact with people. And I think all of us would agree, right? I mean, we're all here. We love our community. We want to see this go deeper. We want to see the water level rise. And we're just really encouraged that you have a heart for that as well and are willing to roll up your sleeves, get dirty in the process, and say, let's go figure this out. I am convinced that when we talk about the outward focus, that it's about impacting culture, and it is about becoming a place where the harvest can come in. Yeah. And we have to have a place where when the harvest comes in, where when new believers come in, the harvest comes in, immature believers come in, hurt believers come in, scared believers come in, that all of those things, that we've got an environment of critical mass that's just immediately beginning to walk with people and pull them into really such a critical part of the Christian life, which is community. So, guys, thank you so much. We are praying for you as you go deeper in this issue, and we are very excited to see in the years to come how this bears fruit.